So what happens when you see something in your life, or you're wandering around during the day and suddenly you see someone or something, maybe on social media, or you meet someone and you think, it could be fun to connect with this person, but then you're afraid. You stop for a second and self-doubt creeps in and fear creeps in, and you think, I can't approach that person. How am I going to approach them? And you don't. And what happens when another person comes into your life and you ignore them because the same thing, your mind starts telling you, how can you do this? What are you going to do? What's going to happen? But then what happens when you actually do this? What happens when you take that plunge and you break that fear and you just make that connection? And then what happens? Well, let's talk about that today. That's what the theme of today is. So this is Carina, Break Fear, Find Freedom, and of course, Dino. And we've got a very special, beautiful host, a very special, beautiful guest today, Eleni Daniels. Hello,
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And hello from New York.
Wow. Yeah. How's that?
Live from New York.
Live. That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Carina, I got to tell you, the intro was brilliant, and the especially nice touch, which is that glow behind you. It almost looks spiritual, like a halo.
That's right.
I love it.
It's perfect.
I love it. It's like I'm talking to Jesus.
Did you not know that?
That's awesome.
The angels are with me today.
Great props today.
Yes, you see, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
It's
what a great subject that you brought up. And, I just want to say, I'm newest to social media and stuff. I get it, but truly, you're right. You hit it right on the head. It's like, okay, everybody isn't necessarily what they see, right? On these social platforms. And for just somebody that's out there just having fun, I mean, it's scary enough. But, when I'm nothing, but when you're considered a public figure, right? Everybody comes out of the woodwork and you can't really distinguish if somebody's genuine or not. Yes. I mean, I'm just talking for personal experience. And so you want to be guarded. And we talked about guarding, last week, where, you talk from your heart, you want to do stuff from your heart, but at the same time, you're just like, okay, when are they going to hit me up for money? Or when are they going to hit me up for this, you only need to spend $20,000 and I have an inheritance waiting for you. And it's all you get those all the time. Plus the marriage proposals and the crazy things, where do you live? Where are you right now? I'm in the area, So understand that most of the time you're kind of negative about the whole subject, right? And this is a perfect, segue into what we're going to talk about. So Eleni and I, this is actually, guys, the first time we're actually seeing each other. We spoke a couple times on the phone, but it was a crazy chance encounter that led to where we are today. And, I'm very proud to say that Eleni and I have been talking, and she's agreed to come on board and help with Life Without Limits magazine, which is just, thank you very much. I mean, it's phenomenal. So I'm not plugging the magazine today. What I'm plugging is basically these chance encounters that initially you'll overlook because of just the way society is. But if you can get past that, what wonderful connections you can make. So with that, let me...
Well, with that, I think we need to look at the word synergy, and maybe we need to define the word synergy a little bit. Right. And, we all hear about the word synergy, but I think synergy really is what makes up everything in the world. Right. So, I mean, look at the human body, right? We're made up of almost, I think, about 32 trillion human cells that work that work synergetically, right? That work in synergy, that make us who we are, that make us how we think. So, I mean, yeah, what are the chances of meeting with that person at that time? And I think it has to do with a sense of divine intervention, as well as a certain readiness that you have in your life, that's something that you've been manifesting yourself. There's a preparedness, I think, that comes, and everything that has happened in your life, I think, that has allowed you to come to this moment, right? So I think God allows us to come out in our truth. Like for me, and I know I'm kind of going beyond because I was going to talk about synergy, but let me just say that for me, I had those moments of doubt, in the past. I've wanted to reach out to people and I've said, no, I'm not going to do it now. You know why? Because it didn't feel right at the moment. I wasn't ready, perhaps, or we did have doubts, and you have to listen to those doubts because that's your gut telling you perhaps to wait, or to hold off and something. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your gut. So in our case, like I mentioned to you, and I'm not going to go into detail of what really happened, but I'm at a point in my life too, where I am resurfacing back into the world. Right. So we've all gone through a major 2 years and more of whatever crisis that we're going on globally, personally, family wise. I lost my mom 2 years ago. I know that you lost a family member too recently. We've all been through so much pain and hardship and grief that I think we're finally ready to come to our truth and really ready to live life with purpose. That's me. So I'm just at a point where I'm coming back. I've been very quiet over the past decade. I was very active in my local communities here in New York, very active in the Greek American community, in radio for many years, for 18 years on Hellenic Public Radio, and working with a lot of wonderful Greek American leaders and business entrepreneurs. And but I kind of had a very reclusive life in the past decade, especially the last 2-3 years. And now I'm like, life is short. I want to meet incredible people like yourselves. And I need to come back, and I need to not only come back for me, but come back for my purpose in life. Right. So, what can I give? What can I offer this world so I can make it a better place? And that's where I am.
Carina, you can't write a script for this kind of stuff. Now, by the way, this is unrehearsed, raw material. And I just feel Carina like beaming, because it's like everything you just said in these few minutes is kind of like what, the subjects that we touch on show after show after show. Right, Carina? Right.
And I have to come in, and I've also said this many times on the show, but obviously, Eleni, you're new to our podcast, right? That's exactly how Dino and I met as well. It was like that synchronicity, how suddenly, he popped up on my radar, and it was like, hey, you need to connect, even though I fought it on so many levels.
You didn't like the cover of
I didn't
book.
like the cover of his book. Come on, he looks so pretentious.
That's the whole point, Carina.
Wait, you mean this book?
Yes, that's the one. Thank you. Yes.
Just plugs. First the magazine, now this. It's like Christmas for me. I love this.
Well, so remember Dino's book, but I kept going round and back and eventually I went, okay, you know what? I'm Italian. I've always had Greek friends. My very first friend was Greek. I've been in the Greek community, and eventually it was like, okay, whatever you're doing, I need to connect with you. And the rest is history. I mean, we've been co-hosting this show for 6 months, and it's been awesome.
Which seems like a lot longer than that. But our first podcast, I will tell you, I'm like, what's a podcast? Do I need a microphone? Do I have to get headphones? I mean, that's what people do.
Yeah.
So I actually, true story, went to Best Buy, and I'm like, I need a microphone. and I need these headphones. Well, we got these phones, which ones are the best? Those. I'm like, done, So on the first episode, I'm on there and I'm wearing these. I hate wearing earmuffs, by the way. I mean, I got big ears already, but they're just, and so I'm sitting there almost like I'd compare it to like a wet cat. I'm just like this, the whole trying to plug my book, and I'm rambling, which that hasn't changed. I mean, we keep going on tangents and stuff, but I'm rambling about different things. And Carina's probably like, okay, can you get to the point? Because I need to say something, But after that, we kind of hit it off. I had gatekeepers, Eleni, that controlled all the PR for me and stuff like that. Because for the first time in my life, I decided that as an author, I need to have a professional PR company and, gatekeepers and all that. Because it was foreign to me. And as great as it was, because it made the connection between Carina and I decided to just take it back over myself, because it's just like everything else I've done in my life. It's just human interaction and that vibe, like you were saying, that you give out. And all of a sudden, this incredible magic happens where there's this ripple effect, only if you believe strongly in what you're doing, by the way. Okay, This can't be an act. Ripple effects don't work that way, I found.
Yeah.
But here we are, where she's like, is it okay if I have your phone number? Because I'm tired of going through your gatekeepers. I'll leave a message and then I have to wait a week to find out where you are. I'm like, yeah. So then we just started talking, and it was just, a much more intense interaction. And obviously our shows have taken off from that point. We're not curing cancer or anything like that, but in a small way, we're touching somebody's life. I'd like to believe.
Yeah, whoever's listening to this, there's going to be one person who's or more who's going to take away something, and they're going to be moved. They're going to be touched. Yeah. So it's beautiful. That's really great.
So how did we meet, Eleni?
Okay, so we only met because and I'm rarely on Facebook, right? It was a Facebook encounter. I'm not on Facebook as often as I normally was. I find I find I spend a lot of time on it. I don't want to do that. But I don't know, this particular evening and just this past week, right? I was just scrolling through and something kind of, told me to go there. And, sometimes on Facebook where it has those friends you may know icons that come up because you're connected with other people. And so I just, saw your name, other names, and I saw a lot of names, and I'm like, oh, who are these people? Why are they coming up on my feed? And I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people in the Greek community, but I've never heard of Dino Miliotis. Now, who's Dino?
Why would you? I'm nobody.
Who's Dino? And I know that we're friends with Basil and Artemis, and Artemis is here in New York. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me see who Dino is. So I went to Dino, and then I scrolled through the feed, and I saw some inspiring things, and I saw your show, your YouTube, and I'm like, oh, let me listen to this. So I did listen to a recent one, probably maybe a week or two ago, and I listened through the whole thing. I thought it was great. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to this person. I don't know why, but I will. I just felt and like it was a completely divine directive. I don't have any other way to explain it, and because I'm ready to pursue creative things right now, I put myself out there. So when you are ready, the universe responds, right? It responds by attracting the right people in your life that are vibrating at the same frequency, right? Because we're all energy. So when you're ready, the universe will give you what you ask for, and vice versa. So it's an amazing synergy, right? So going back to the word synergy is because right now the three of us are working together to create something even more beautiful and expansive that normally would be, right? So,
right.
And it's when you have the right team, I think, together, that really makes a difference.
Yeah. And the special part about what you just said is not like, ooh, look at me. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is you said you were at a time in your life where it's kind of like a crossroad on what to do next. Because obviously you have infinite options. Everybody does. We're not the only people that have a trademark on it.
Right.
And at every crossroad, there's infinite number of ways you can go. I mean, and this happens, by the way, every second of every day. And I could totally relate to it because, again, I've made my story very public, but, when I got out clean and sober, right? And I purposely isolated myself because I wanted to be good. And I took that raw energy and emotion and put it into a book. And I've never written a book before. I don't consider myself an author. I just did it. Then I'm just like, what am I going to do now? And as I'm thinking this, there are people from past businesses, empires that I built that are like, hey, this will be the greatest comeback if you come back. And, honestly, guys, my heart wasn't in it. It just wasn't in it. It's just like, been there, done that. It's time to reinvent. It's time to move on. I have a story, and it can't just be, I can't possibly think that my story is only important to me. I have to believe that other people feel exactly the same way I do. And what if I just reached out and just became open and honest with what I was feeling and doing and thinking? And, fast forward, here you are, I completely relate that. I mean, in your own right, you've done some amazing stuff. Anybody who doesn't know, look up Eleni Daniels. I mean, she's
really
put the Greek community on the map, by the way. But, big, I know, I got it, but I mean it. She's put the, radio, big in radio, television. She has infinite options. And obviously, as you were telling me, people that are inviting you to go back into that world. And here comes, I'm just going to say, it's like blind faith. I want to do something different, Dino. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing something different and it's pretty cool. And you're like, well, I want to do that too. And not knowing, or like, you may not like the stuff that I'm doing. Right. But something got us together and it's like magic.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Well,
Carina,
I think it also has to do with, and Carina, go ahead. You want to?
No, sorry, you continue.
I was just saying, I absolutely, like I was saying before, I think it's the timing of your life. It has to do with timing. It has to do with timing and preparedness and just faith. You need to trust that moment, that little voice in your head saying, go there, and I could have said no. I could have no, I'll do it tomorrow, but I didn't, it's like, yes. Okay. Why am I looking up Facebook? And it was 2:00 in the morning. It wasn't like 6 in the morning or 4, it was 2 in the morning, or 3 or something like that, which is the most glorious
the magic hour.
Yeah. Right.
It's magic in something. That's when I get the most proposals, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Oh, are you serious?
Oh, God. And I'm like, oh God, who's this Eleni Daniels? Is it in my spam? But again, the same way that you were a little cautious, but it was almost like a calling. You were almost ready to be deleted and put in my spam box. And I stopped. And I'm just like, let me just see this. Because unlike robots or people that are in foreign lands, I won't mention names because I don't want to offend the land, but, where they come up with stuff, but if you ask them a human question, they just there's no response for it because it's like brain overload.
Yeah.
You were firing back with intelligent responses, which led me to believe, A, you're a real person. And 2, you're extremely intelligent. So yeah, isn't it funny how we are gatekeepers of our own
Well, I
world?
reached out to you via email, right? So it wasn't Facebook. I mean, I just I went to your show. I love the show, and then I went to the foundation, and it was like, okay, how do I reach out to this person? I don't even know why. I mean, maybe because I've been developing a podcast idea for the past year. I haven't done anything with it, but I have the brand idea and everything. And I thought, it could be someone that I would like to talk to. You just wrote a book. Let me read the book. So I immediately bought the book that same morning. Like, I got to get the book. I got to read the story. Who is this guy? This dude? What is his story? Because we all have a story. And we all need to share our story, because that's how we evolve, I think, as a species, is to share our stories, right? So, because it's always going to affect someone. It's always going to change a person's life, or even if it's something they take away with it. Because I found in my years in radio, I always would get emails from people, oh God, that interview you did was just amazing. I'll never forget what your guest said, and then when I left for so many years, I left radio in 2011, right? So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And I would get emails, and even I mentioned this story to you. I have a dear friend who I saw recently, and she happens to be a doctor here in New York, Lorraine. And she was like, Eleni, where are you? We need you. We need your voice. You got to get back on the radio. Like, where have you been? It's like, I said, Lorraine, I've been evolving. I've been grieving. I lost my mother. I had a family member with chronic illness for so many years. I was a caretaker for my mom. When you're a caretaker for an elderly person, and in our Greek culture, I don't know, Carina, if that's the same with you, but it's not, we're expected to take care of our family members, right? Especially in the Greek culture. You don't put mom anywhere, and you take care of mom, right? So I have no siblings, so everything fell on me. So for the longest time, I was managing her health care. I was managing the, people who were helping her and working and being a single mom. It was like, wow, I don't have any space for creativity.
Yeah.
Where do I fit in the creativity part? And how can I give other people when I don't have enough to give myself, So anyway, I don't want to ramble, but
it's about, again, we've also discussed this so many times. It's about getting to a point where eventually it's time to give to yourself and start, okay, it's time to love myself. It's time to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And once you can fill yourself up, then it's time now. So it was a perfect opportunity now to actually go out, and it's now time to just give. And then, of course, once you start giving, which is the way it is, right? You start giving, and then suddenly it comes back 20-fold. And we've discussed this so many times on our show, where you in the space where you just so full, and it's so easy to give, but it's also so easy to receive, because a lot of times it's so difficult to receive, especially when you're at that point. And no matter what, I mean, I'm Italian, right? No matter what, you've always got that feeling that maybe I'm not good enough to receive. So so that's a beautiful place to be. And then, of course, then you bring then the synergy happens, and all the people come into your life, and you can do what you want with it. I mean, you can grow with it, create with it, evolve with it, or you can just say, okay, this is nice, and walk away. I mean, that's the best part of all. It's the choices.
And the thing that's kind of neat is, again, I mean, not everything gets all nice and neatly wrapped like a CSI show, which ends in 60 minutes. You go through hardship, and then at the end, everything's okay. I mean, this is life. You know what I mean? Like you said, you've been out of the game since 2011. And, I was out of the game for many years as well. Not as long, but many years. I guess everybody, I like that word, evolves. Everybody does that healing or the evolving on their own time. Some will do it really, really quickly. Some will do it a lot longer. I give credit right on the show to my brother, because when I was going through my hardship, it was like you, Eleni. He was taking care of my mom. He was the caretaker. He took care of her as long as he could. Then she was in it was assisted living, but with nurses. I mean, it was a nice place.
Yeah.
But he was doing that for 4 years. So while I'm out and just trying to recover and trying to find my way and figuring out that I can't do this anymore, he 100% grabbed the reins and did what he had to do. I admire him for that and for his strength. When I was ready, it took me 2 years after I was sober to see my mom. Not because I didn't want to, but just because I was sober doesn't mean that I was ready. It's a mental thing, and it's just hard to explain any other way. But when it was time, I knew it was time. And I came out to see her. Definitely not how I remembered her, right? I mean, she could barely speak. She could barely move. Her brain was just great, but you could barely understand her. So, but I was prepared for it. I was ready. So when I came to see her, yeah, it was devastating. I'll keep that to myself. But at the same time, I was ready for it. And I just plunged in to help her and my brother any way I can. So we tag teamed the visits. We'd go several times a day and see her all the way up till the end, which wasn't long after that. It was maybe about a month and a half. I handled her passing very well. And there's no right way to grieve, but I looked at it as, she's moving on to a better place. There's no pain, there's no suffering. And instead of mourning her death, I was celebrating her life. Now that's really positive and great. But if you go back to 2017, when I was under the influence and I lost my father, pretty much almost the same way, I didn't take it very well. And instead of celebrating his life, I mourned his death. And it was my excuse to go way, way down that rabbit hole of just total crazy addiction. So I was just a mess. I was a mess. I walked away from the empires that I created, and they're running themselves, but obviously they never run as good as when you're there. But I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. And so it's a state of mind, isn't it?
Yeah. Certainly.
When you're ready, you're ready. And so I'm sure if you weren't ready, Eleni, you wouldn't have reached out. And even if it wasn't me you were reaching out to, I mean, you're ready. You're like, I want to face something new in my life. Right.
And and exactly. And, exactly. And my whole thing is, I don't want to sound cliche, but, live with a purpose, right? Live with purpose.
That's right.
We're living in crazy times right now, right? The world is a crazy place. It's actually a perfect place because God created a perfect space for us, but it's actually led by psychopaths and crazy people. So we need to really live in our truth, and we need to stay sovereign. And I think we need to also live with purpose because, God created us for a reason, right?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Carina.
Sorry, I just want to interject for a minute, and we always have to start with us, right? So once we start the change within ourselves, we can. It depends also the way you see things. Granted, everybody's crazy, but if you find the good somewhere, you can take it with you. Just my thoughts. Sorry, Dino, what were you saying?
No, that's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is so much good in the world. And I think that's where we need to come from, the good within ourselves, because I think at the core, every human being is good.
Exactly.
I think at the core, we're all good. We've just been, I think, tainted from our problems, from family dysfunctionalities, perhaps from the world, from programming, from everything. I mean, I think it's a compilation of things. It's not just one thing. But I think once we're ready to come out and have endured that darkness and decide to come out of that darkness, you know, and face our truth and face who we are and say, hey, wait a minute, you know, people want to hear from you. They want to hear from you. They want to hear your story.
Right.
You know, everyone has a story and everyone is so talented, you know, and this is, you know, I have a beautiful daughter. And I've always said that to her. I said, you know, share your story, share your talent with the world, you know, and what happens if you fall down a million times? It's okay. It matters how you know, us Greeks, like we're like, you know, we got to be perfect and do it well. But my father said to me, you know what, it doesn't matter what you do, just do it well.
Right.
Whatever you do it well and be a person of your word.
Bingo.
Live with integrity. You know,
yes.
Don't taint your name.
This is such great stuff, man. I am beaming.
That's exactly.
Seriously, I'm beaming. But, you know, for me, purpose is even, I don't even want to compare. My purpose is more important than yours, but I'm saying it's especially important to a recovering addict to understand purpose. Because if you don't have purpose, what you tend to do is just kind of hover around in a holding pattern, a prisoner, if you will, of your own mind. And left to your own device, you can go down some crazy roads. When you have purpose, you're not thinking about it. I'll give you an example. I'm a recovering alcoholic. Now, you're Greek, you're Italian. We all know we're social people. People do drink socially. It doesn't make them bad people, just makes them people. I'll never be one of them, but it's okay. So I'm not the kind of person that wants people to come to my house and, oh, it's a sober house. What do we bring them? Do we bring them water? You know, look, I encourage you to drink if that's going to make you more comfortable, or if that's what you do, if that's your thing. And so, you know, again, I'm new to the area, new house, new life. I went to the liquor store and I bought it, you know, whatever the top shelf stuff is that people drink, and I put it in my bar. So I'm a recovering alcoholic that has alcohol in my house at a bar for people to come over and enjoy whatever they want to enjoy. And if they want to have water or coffee, that's fine. But at least it's here. Never once am I thinking, you know what, those bottles are pretty good. Let me open one. Maybe 3 years ago, I couldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But right now, it's as insignificant as like a little fruit fly that's just kind of buzzing in my ear. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's inner strength. That just doesn't come from just, well, I haven't had a drink in a month. That's called dry sober. This is more than that. This is mind, body, and spirit, which touches on everything that the three of us are talking about.
Right.
And
I know that I have a gift, and it took almost 56 years to understand that I've had this gift all along. And it's to inspire people, not to nudge them, not to convince them, not to shake them into reality, according to me. It's just to nudge them that things are possible. That's it. And I give this freely. And by doing just these smallest little things, I'm finding incredibly that it's just changing not only their world, but mine for the better. You know, and this is not like the spiritual hour, everybody who's watching.
No, it's real talk.
This is real stuff. This isn't the meditation hour where I'm going to tell you, okay, close your eyes and you know, but this the reason I'm so excited about it is this stuff just happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've been teasing this all along, right? So this happened. What are you guys doing now? So you met, you supposedly collaborating. What are you collaborating on?
Here's the best part. We don't know. We just know that we're in.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I need help with this. Life Without Limits was just to touch on Eleni's point. everybody's got a story. It's a beautiful story. And the people that can tell it can help others, right?
Right.
And again, we didn't rehearse that line. But one day I just woke up and I'm just like, you know what? These people that are reaching out with products, obviously they want me to endorse them. They want me to sell them. I get it. I'm in sales. I love you guys, by the way. But more than that, when you sit there and you find out, okay, this is just water. What makes this different than any other water that's on the market? And you find out it's not the water, it's the story behind that water, that particular water, the people and how they got together and their special story and what it represents and what it means. Being in sales all my life, I know for a fact that people buy from emotion and not necessarily logic. And they also buy from who they like, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But in all these publications, whether they're virtual or, the magazines that we remember, rest in peace magazines.
Right, I know.
Yeah. They're usually like, stories about what happened or who had a wedding or who showed up where. And then occasionally it's going to be the ad. Buy the water available at pretty people, of course, drinking the water, basically surrounding them, the water surrounding a beach, suggesting that if you don't have this water, you will not have a good time ever.
Right.
Okay. And I get that. That's traditional marketing. But what if we didn't have ads? What if we had feature stories? That's the story behind the amazing product. And what if that product was also featured in the magazine for sale through the magazine's platform? What a great thing. So I just woke up one day and I'm just like, I've never had a magazine. I don't know the first thing about magazines, but this is really cool. So I thought of Life Without Limits because since I've written the book and in the book, it says, live a life without limits. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm getting all these people that are coming to me, some amazing stories. And because of how, my day is lately with a lot of people helping. And by the way, for the sober community, crises aren't 9 to 5. They usually happen in the wee hours of the morning. And I'm there because I want to help people. So I really don't sleep much anymore. In comes Eleni, and in comes my son, thank God, who's joining the family business. And I'm just like, oh, this is just perfect. Because now this thing is going to be able to spread, Carina. Now it's more than just me. I'm tired of just talking about me. Dino did this today. Dino did that today. There's a lot of people that are more important than me. I'm nothing compared to all the people out there that we still haven't reached. And through this magazine and through Eleni's help, we'll be able to reach a lot more. So I hope that answers.
I am so honored to be at this moment with you guys. I really am. I think it's really special, and I really am honored and so proud to have gone through what we've all gone through to get to this place, because I think we're just acting on faith alone. Dina and I have had, little few conversations about where we want to take this and, my role in this. But in the two instances that we've spoken, I think we're just, we're going on faith. I mean, we're really just, for some reason, know what we're capable of and know what I think would come out of this. So it's really exciting without even having met. I mean, it's the first time I'm meeting you, Dino and Carina, but it just, we're on to something good.
We're on to something.
I don't know. That's how I feel.
We're on to something great. And like everything else in my life, when I think of something that's just, I don't know, it's got just special meaning, the hairs on my arm always stand up. And this magazine concept was no different. I mean, I just thought of it and went up. And I always listen to the hairs on my arm.
Yeah.
Through 40 years, I'll remember every time the hairs have gone up, every
Wow.
single time, where I was, what I was thinking. It's just freaky. But you remember those special aha moments.
Right.
I mean, they're priceless. One day we'll talk about those in some kind of medium.
Yeah.
But so basically, you know, in the vast scale of the world, it's a much bigger world than just us three. But look at the people just on this podcast, right? What powerhouses in their own right, right?
Mm.
Carina thinking about that most things are fear-based, and how we break through them is very, very important, especially to entrepreneurs who always have that great idea, but they don't act on it. And then they're like, oh, you know what? Somebody else beat me to it. Hey,
yeah,
that's the way it works.
yeah.
To me,
Well, it really is. And, you know, a lot of we hear a lot about this now. You know, we hear about, it really is faith over fear, right? So if we lead our life through faith over fear and overcome fear, because yeah, absolutely. You know, I had a lot of self-doubt. I had like imposter syndrome. You know, I said no to opportunities for work in mainstream media in the past because I didn't feel I was good enough either, or maybe I couldn't tackle it because of time issues, you know, taking care of a small toddler or whatever. But I think what I was just getting at is to live your life fearlessly.
Wow, there's so many things
I am fearless
in this show. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's about living fearlessly right now because there's no other way to live.
You have to go on faith. I mean, for me, I packed a bag and I came to the US, right?
From South Africa.
From South Africa, on a promise that turned out to be a lie. But that's fine because I'm here now, right? And we wouldn't be having that conversation because of that.
Right.
I survived. I went into detention for a visa overstay for 8.5 months. I survived it. I'm a better person for it now, right? So somehow with faith, and that's how I work most of the time. So you wake up in the morning and it just works. With even, you know, with Dino, it was a calling. I had to get hold of him, even though I fought it on every level. I had to. It was like I had to connect with him, and you know, so it's so beautiful. But a lot of times my head makes me go crazy. The self-doubt's there all the time. Yeah. And that's why breaking the fear is so important. But it's not really breaking it. It's transforming it. Right. And finding the freedom.
Right. So and getting out of our head, because we tend to live in our head, right? So every thought will affect our neurosystem. Every thought you put in your head. So instead of negative thoughts, we need to replace them with positive thoughts because it affects every cell in your body.
Yeah.
How you think matters.
Here's a kicker. I just basically stopped driving. I mean, seriously, I took my hands off the wheel and I'm like, you know what? I've gotten this far. I literally should be dead, broke, jailed, you know, whatever you want, the worst experience you could think of. And I've done all these things and I've been doing the driving, thinking, well, I'm Dino Meliodas. You know, nobody knows the wheel better than me. I took my hands off that damn wheel. And I'm telling you, I don't even have to worry. I will not be put into situations for long that are nefarious in nature, disguised as a Trojan horse. Let's plug the Greeks because there's Greeks in the
I'm outnumbered, yeah.
but you know, I'm not even worried about that. Yeah, I'm going to meet people, and yeah, they have bad intentions, and yeah, they're going to try and lead me down rabbit holes. But instead of overthinking it to the point where I kill it, and it affects me, and I become bitter, I refuse to become bitter about it. I just let it go and just know that I'm not doing the driving. Things will only work out in my favor because I'm not doing the driving anymore.
Exactly.
And that is, I'm not preaching God. I'm not preaching a religion. I'm saying this is a spiritual thing that if I can bottle it, I'd sell it. I mean, it's so special. And when you get to that point where you have that, you feel words you read, and you smell in color, which is really just freaky for people to understand, but it's just a crazy thing.
Yeah.
I'm in a good place right now. And the great thing is, that makes me really happy, is I'm looking at two beautiful women that are also in a great place right now. And that's freaking awesome.
It is awesome. It is awesome. And it's very inspiring. Like, I don't know, it took a long time to get to this place, but I think, like we said, I mean, everything happens for a reason, right? Everything happens for a reason. So you can't have any regrets, and you just got to look forward to what's ahead. And it's so exciting, it's so exciting, because when you're ready, you're ready. When you're ready, everything lines up for you. And the universe just kind of like, okay, you're ready. Well, we're just gonna give it to you and see what you can do, right?
Yes,
it really does.
And the beautiful thing is that if you step if you think you're ready, if you think something else is good for you, and you step into that mission or with certain people, and it doesn't work, that it wasn't ready, and you need to be able to say, this isn't working for me. I need to let it go.
But don't lament about what happened.
And don't lament, because it was a lesson on its own, and you had to meet those people anyway, to show you things and to grow within yourself. And you can say, thank you for that. That's beautiful. But I may you go in peace and many blessings, and just walk away.
Yeah, we need to know when to say goodbye. And we also need to know that every person we meet is actually a mirror of something that we're actually battling with, or something we want to achieve, right? So we always attract where we're at. So we need to keep that in mind. You got
some good stuff rolling off your tongue, man. I mean, seriously, this is some good stuff. You read a book just on, the one-liners.
That's a whole other discussion. Yeah,
that's a whole other show. It's wonderful, and you know what? It is true. Everybody we meet is, ironically, a piece of a master puzzle that we can't see, but it's there. And so where people are like, well, I met you, and you serve no purpose right now. I'm saying it in a bad way. I'm going to offend a million people out here, but you know what I mean. I don't look at that. I take that puzzle and I store it in my head. It may come into use later on in the future. It may not, but I have a library.
Well, that's a very good point. I'm going to interject here for a second. I don't like interrupting, but it kind of reminds me of the piece that I read in your book, where you were, or someone approached you at a restaurant, and it was the chef, and he gave you his card if you ever need help. And you were like, well, sure. You took his card and you kind of put it away. And you mentioned that in your book, of how you thought about him months later when you needed some catering help, because you always meet someone for a reason. There's always a purpose to everything. I think nothing is random. So I think that's the beauty of it. And you mentioned that in your book, which is, really interesting. Yeah.
And the difference is, just to be clear, and not to downgrade this chef, very good chef, but it's not like I can't go online or in what they called a phone book. It's a thing that's really thick that people used to open, and it has paper for those who just go online. But anyway, I could go anywhere and I can look up great chefs, and I'm sure I get like 1 million people to call. It's different to do that. And I'm sure I'd get a 5-star chef that was rated by, a couple hundred people or whatever. And it's different when you meet the person that you have hand selected for whatever reason to be that chef. And that's what I'm saying. People buy from people they like. They buy it on an emotional level, which makes this magazine so much more than a magazine. It's special. It's going to tout the incredible talents of people all over the world.
Yeah, I think
that's what we're
That's
what we're talking about.
You need that connection. It's about connection as well. You can go and find anyone on Google. but it means nothing because you don't know who that person is. Whereas now, Eleni, and you can connect and collaborate in the future or not, or whatever, or be friends. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that makes the difference.
Lastly, I just want to add, what the last 2 years have taught us in life, right? Being locked up, lockdowns all over the world, is that it has allowed us to maybe forcefully go through like this introspection of our life, right?
Yes.
So I know personally it made me do it. It had my mother, passed away in April of 2020. It was just at the time when this whole thing started. So that was even double the work. But I think the majority of the population was forced into this pseudo kind of living situation where you had to face your demons, you had to face your strengths, your weaknesses, you had to manage life, you had to manage family members and kids. Mothers had to homeschool their kids. It really, I think, allowed people to come up with, to really understand themselves and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm good at this. I didn't realize I was so good at this. And creativity kicks in, right? So maybe this is where the best ideas comes from. Sometimes in the darkest moments of your life, you come up with the most incredible business ideas. So what's incredibly interesting and unique about Life Without Limits magazine, which kind of, I feel, is that people are knocking on your door because they come from that creative space. These new products that have perhaps have just given birth to these new products in the past 2 years and don't know what to do with them, and the world's changing, we don't want print magazines anymore. Everything is going to be online. The world is changing. So there's so much potential, so much potential.
I love this.
It's exciting. It's very exciting.
This was a wonderful segment. I don't even know, Carina, what you're going to title this segment, but you could just put, this is really effing good, or whatever you want to say. But this is a good one, only because it just reinforces the fact that it's not just me saying the same thing week after week after week. It's not just Carina asking the same question week after week. This is universal. There are people out there, a lot of people, that feel the way we do, and want the same things as we do. And we're going to find them. We're going to find them all. But I appreciate Eleni coming on the show. Break Fear, Find Freedom. Carina, thank you for hosting the show. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
That wraps up Break Fear, Find Freedom.
Thank you, Eleni. Thank
you so much,
Dino, and bye for now, guys.